Hello and welcome to another CollectaThought, the show where I collect my thoughts on video games. And today we're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force 2, hopefully this time for the last time, because last time I lost my recording right at the end because Audacity decided there was no more room in my hard drive. This was not the fault of Audacity, but I'm not going to go into it. Anyways, Tag Force 2, the sequel to Tag Force, of course. And this is another Yu-Gi-Oh game. Not much has changed gameplay wise or map wise, but a lot has changed in terms of how the progression in this game is handled. Tag Force now goes a lot more focused on its Tag Force gimmick of playing 2 players versus 2 players by giving you a partner right at the beginning of the game. This is a character you can choose from. This will at first just be other students from the anime, the characters you'd recognize. Thankfully not just some random NPCs, but once you finish one campaign you can unlock other tag partners even outside of these students. Because the way it works here now is that each character you can choose as a tag partner has its own story. And so instead of growing the hearts of whatever character you want throughout the world, you instead grow the heart of the character you picked and through this progress the game. The way it works is simple. Much like in the first game, you have to raise the hearts of your partner, but instead of the goal being raising their hearts so they can become your partner, they're already your partner, and growing the hearts will unlock events that progress their story. And when you get all the hearts, of course, then you get an ending that's gonna be focused on that character. This time around I went with Chaz. Last time I went with Zane, or at least that's the character I focused on to be my partner, and I had a Cyber Dragon deck for, synergy. And this game lets you have a lot more synergy because you always have your partner with you from the beginning of the game, so you can just work on your deck and its synergy as you go along. That being said, I will say that you can just do whatever deck you want as long as you don't pick a very overly reliant partner, I would say. What I mean by that is, some partners are just not good first partners. As you're actually seeing in the gameplay, I initially picked Aster Phoenix as my starter partner, but my god is he awful as a starter. He just does not work well with the first cards you get, and he will just very much make you lose duels. So the way it is set up, it is very much like the game is not expecting you to just pick whatever character you want. It definitely has some characters that are better to start with. From my experience, I would say Chaz, the one I picked, was pretty good. I would say Jaden would be pretty easy to start with as well. Alexis would be fine as well because she has a simple deck. I would say that starting out, it's actually better to have a simple deck because you don't have a lot of money to spend on cards, and so you need to be winning duels. And the simple deck is going to be able to do that more consistently. And by the way, by simple deck, I mean the deck of your partner, not your deck. Because when your partner has a more complicated deck, you have to work towards its strengths and weaknesses, or you're just going to have a situation where he kind of does a lot of stupid moves because the AI is not very good. But that's all fine because the game very much works in a way where it has an New Game Plus that you can just kind of start at any point. If you get tired of a character, you can legitimately just save the game, go back to the menu and set it to start from the beginning, and you will still have all the cards and money you made in the previous playthrough. So basically, even if you do the wrong choice and you commit hours into it, you're still not wasting too much time, thankfully. Where you would of course be wasting time is in raising the hearts, which of course, much like in the first game, take quite a while. But here you can also kind of abuse it. Much like in the original game, you grow it by dueling and giving your partner sandwiches. There is no longer a conversation option, probably removed because they now just follow you around and they aren't actual characters that you can interact with, so to say, but you can't give them sandwiches, which is what I was trying to say with you being able to kind of abuse the system a little bit. Because of the gold sandwich. This is a sandwich that was also in the original game, and basically what it does is it grows a heart automatically. And with the hearts being the way you progress the game, it of course makes the game's story just progress a lot faster. So what I end up doing a lot, especially after I had accumulated quite a bit of in-game money and I didn't feel the necessity to expend it on cards anymore. I made an elemental hero deck, by the way. I didn't really go too much for the synergy thing because I just wanted to have my nostalgia trip with the elemental heroes. But regardless, with all that in-game money, you can then focus on just trying to capture the golden sandwich, which is easier said than done. It shows up randomly once a day, and it also requires quite a bit of timing to hit it right, as it is kind of a roulette thingy where the one you land on is the one you get, but it stops at the click, so it can be timed. And once again, there is quite a lot of randomness to it, but if you have a lot of money and you can just kind of waste a day because now there's also no timer, then it's not really a big deal. Because once you know in which part of the day it is, also it changes every day, you can't just stand there and spend your money until you get it. In-game money, there's no microtransactions. This was the PSP. It wasn't really a thing back then. It shouldn't be a thing now. Anyways, it is a very easy way to speed up the story progression, especially after you already feel comfortable with your deck, and it helps quite a lot when replaying the game with different characters. Now, the two final additions I want to talk about in the gameplay here that I almost forgot last time I did this recording, so I guess this is a good thing. It's first the mini games. These are quite weird. They look like flash games almost. One of them is a snake game where you catch characters and then they go behind you in a line, making a bigger and bigger line, which is kind of cool except for the fact that you have to do this with your partner, and your AI partner loves to ram into you at high speeds, making this a very random game that I just could not enjoy. Then the other game, maybe a bit more consistent and more enjoyable, is the dodgeball, but it's not quite dodgeball. It's like one of those flash games where you would throw something across the screen by setting the speed and the angle, and you try to hit the characters on the other side. I can't really pinpoint what flash game this was because I think there was a lot quite like it. The only one I can think of is Bowman, but with more simplified controls, but also in opposition to that a more complicated battlefield, so to say. It's still 2D, but there's, up and downs, and there might be a wall in front of the characters. The idea is that they're doing it on ice. It is very out of character for Yu-Gi-Oh, by the way. These minigames are very weird, very much a product of their time, I would say. Another one is literally just the board game Reversey, so that's okay, I guess. Another one, though, that is not quite a mini game, but it still is the classes. In the previous game, classes were very much just a moment of dialogue that didn't mean anything, and maybe you got some free cards. Here there's an actual game to it, and basically it's a dungeon crawler where you have to kind of do small Yu-Gi-Oh challenges. The way it works is you go through a path, and each room will have an entry and a bunch of exits, and you can construct the path using ladders, or you can just take the predefined path. Usually you'd want to make a path so you can either continue progressing because some of the exits are actual exits out of the dungeon, or there's stairs to continue, or because maybe you want to avoid some of the challenges. Because the way it works is these are challenges where you have very low health and you have to beat your adversary in a regular Yu-Gi-Oh duel, but to be fair, they also have very low health. So basically what it does is that the game gets resolved in very few turns. Obviously this can be abused. You can make a deck that just kind of does damage to your opponent in some way, and because they have so little, we're talking about less than 1,000 life points, you could really make a deck that very easily abuse this, but there's also not a big reason to. I played this a few times and it's not the game that gives you the most currency, so I wasn't like too excited with it. It was a fun little distraction, but also I for the most part did not care. The other thing that can happen in classes then is the tests, which were actually better in the first game actually. In the first game they would ask you questions about Yu-Gi-Oh! And how it worked, but now they just ask you the name of cards, which is kind of useless. And you can honestly get most of them by just looking at the picture. You know, there'll be like a giant orc in the picture and one of the options will be like Angel of Light, and it's like, okay, I wonder which one it is. Regardless, it's whatever, it doesn't happen too much. What also doesn't happen too much, this happening once a week in the in-game time. There might not be a 90-day counter, but time still goes by and every week there is a tournament. At first I actually thought this was what progressed the story, so I was just kind of focusing on that for a while. And basically the way it works is you go to a tournament and you have to win 5 duels in a row. And if you do that, you win the tournament, make quite a lot of money, but also unlock the next one. There are 4 tournaments in total, 3 are for the school houses, which yes, I just refer to them like they're Hogwarts houses, but basically it goes the way you expect, with Slifer being the easiest one, Ra being the middle one, and Obelisk being the hardest one. And then the 4th tournament being kind of a champions tournament where you play against other main characters. And I remind you that because this game's big focus on the tag force, this all being done with your partner in those 2v2 duels. Like I said before, this is actually how I thought the game progressed, but no, it is completely optional, and it's also where you'll find most of the difficulty in this game. And I think it's also a good way of showing that, hey, this time around, there's actually a difference between battling a Slifer and an Obelisk, even if it is still very much a very minor difference. Now, the actual final gameplay gimmick I wanted to talk about, that I mentioned when I said I only had 2 to talk about, that was a lie I guess, is the Destiny Draw. This is a new feature that kinda just sticks around for the rest of the games, and basically what it does is when you're about to lose or you have very low XP, the game will give you a Destiny Draw. So when you draw, instead of pulling a random card from your deck, which is how Yu-Gi-Oh works, instead then you pull a card that you mark to be Destiny Draw during the deck building bit of the game. You can set a single card or multiple, but preferentially you will want multiple. Because while you might think that one is better because you can just focus on this one card to turn the game around, something like a Mirror Force, a Raigeki, maybe one of the jars. But the problem with that is if you set a single card, then if you draw that card before you have the ability to do a Destiny Draw, then you just won't have one. So you are incentivized to put more than one for that specific situation, which is rather common. Especially since the Destiny Draw should be happening towards the ending of a duel and not the beginning, hopefully. Now, this is something that maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Purists will not use or want to use, and to be fair, they can just do that. They can just not use it, since it's something they can't do in real life, I guess. But it is just a game feature to me, and I personally did use it. I didn't really mind it. It is something the other characters will use either way, so, you know, why give them the advantage? That's my thought process. Also, by the way, if it wasn't obvious by the way I talked about the partners, no, you can't change their decks, which would be a cool feature, but whatever. Regardless though, overall, Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force 2 is a great improvement from the first game, which honestly wasn't hard to do. The first game felt quite like a beta, with the major improvements being an improvement to the pacing and the story with a better and clearer goal, and the days just being proportioned better. No more of the time being extremely incremental. Now they're just morning, afternoon and night, and some free time to move around within those time zones. saying it's a time zone, it's kind of weird, but you know what I mean. Regardless though, even though it's just more Yu-Gi-Oh, this is just a whole lot more enjoyable of an experience that I also found to be a lot more replayable because of its setup. And for those reasons, I am giving Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force 2 a 7 out of 10. Recommendations wise, yes, absolutely. If you're between this and the first game, play this one. And if you're a beginner, I still think that these are pretty good games to start with. Don't be too worried about not understanding all the mechanics at first. Just know that, Google exists and anything you have a doubt about, someone will have asked before you. Take me for an example. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For a very long time, but I'm no expert because I also don't really keep up with it. I still barely know how pendulum summons work, but I can always just Google it, and someone has asked my stupid question before. So, don't be afraid of learning Yu-Gi-Oh! It is a very fun card game. Regardless though, I hope you enjoyed watching, and if so, please consider subscribing, liking, and even commenting, all things you can do for free here on YouTube. And regardless of that, goodbye. Actually, I just wanted to cry about how I had to record this video twice because, oh my god, I hate my computer. What happened was I was upscaling a video because I wanted to try and upscale a video to see what it looked like. And this was using Video 2X, by the way. And basically what happens is it uses the temp folder on my main drive, which isn't very big. And what ended up happening was it ran out of space, literally. And Audacity was like, you can't record anymore, it's out of space, and it crashed. And then I open it again, it's like, do you want to recover your files? And I'm like, oh my god, yes. And then it just kind of died again because there was still no space. And then it crashed again, and then it didn't recover, and I was like, okay. So I had to make a bunch of space. I had to move the temp files on my computer. Now my temp files are on a different thing just so I can use this video upscaling thing I just want to play with. But whatever. To finish off on a Yu-Gi-Oh note, good luck finding this game. I'm not saying you should resort to piracy. All I'm saying is Konami doesn't want your money. Konami doesn't want your money.